Good morning.
Hi, Sarah. Morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Playing. I have some exciting things to share at our team meeting today. I've been working,
Nice.
organizing ourselves. How are you doing?
Great. Welcome, everybody. At this point, everyone is muted. That's normally how we start our Zoom sessions. If you want to and you want to practice unmuting yourself, in the bottom left corner of your screen, you should see a mute button. If you want to unmute and just say hi, the only reason we mute everyone is just because if everyone's talking at the same time, it gets a little crazy. But you're more than welcome to say hi as we are waiting for everyone. Also in the chat, if you could type your first and last name with your school site too. It's also good practice using the chat feature. And we'll get started in 5 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining us. We have about 2 minutes and then we'll get started. But if you're here, if you could type your first and last name and your school site in the chat, that would be awesome. And then as you entered today, everyone is on mute. If you would like to say hi and practice, you have 2 minutes. You can always go to the bottom left of your screen and unmute yourself if you want to say hi. If not, no big deal.
Shawn, I'm going to unmute myself. It's Delvina.
Hi, how are you?
I missed your face.
I miss your face. How's
Right.
how's mom life teaching from home?
I rebuke. One elementary, one high school.
difficult.
And a million other special ed.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you for having this.
Hi, Shawn.
Is that Karen?
It is Karen. Can you
Hi,
see me?
Karen.
Hi, Shawn.
Hi, Robin.
There I am.
There you are.
I finally figured it out.
You're doing great.
It's an uphill, like, learning curve.
Sure thing.
Shawn, did you say on the beginner one yet Tuesday that they're going to do these for the Zoom training?
Yes, we are going to have them for Zoom too. We're trying to make it sooner than later, but we will definitely have it.
Okay.
What about the Google Meet?
Same thing.
I
Hopefully-
did my first one yesterday, assigning it to my teammates. Whew.
Yeah. I've actually, the more I work with Zoom, the more I like it. So, and I'll talk about that in just a second too, but that's awesome that you even tried it.
Don't forget to have everybody mute when we get started, because
Yep.
then you cut out so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna mute my mouth now.
Okay. All right, it is 9 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Just a couple things. First of all, thank you for being here. Zoom has been an incredible tool that we have started to use so far, and it has been approved that we can use it with our students. So just practicing today is a really great opportunity, and then you can eventually try it with your students. Every time that we hold a session, we click it so that all participants are muted upon entry. That way there's no background noise and we don't hear people's cats and dogs and everything like that. If you ever want to talk, you can always unmute yourself in the bottom left, but we encourage you to use the chat feature first. Sarah Dominowski is amazing and she is keeping track of everything in the chat. So if you ever have any questions throughout the next hour, just type it in the chat and then Sarah will stop me because she knows I keep going on and on and on. And then we'll answer questions every 10 minutes. So she kind of does a really good job of just, Shawn, stop, answer these questions. If you do not want your face to be shown, you can always stop your own video. That's in the bottom left too, but it's really nice to see people. So thank you for doing that, but no big deal either way. Also, with Zoom, there's a really great feature where I can share my screen. That's what I will be doing today. I'll be sharing my screen. I cannot see anything on your screen, so don't worry about that at all. There's also in the bottom of your Zoom feature, there's a reactions tab. We're also trying that where you could raise your hand, but again, we're learning as we go as well. Also, if this is not to your level of learning, there's never any hard feelings if you have to check out 10 minutes in, halfway through, or whatever. We're all in this together, but if this is kind of, you already know this stuff, then don't hesitate to just leave our video if you need to. With that being said, Sarah is going to put in the link to the Plus Delta. So if you do decide to leave, if you could just take that survey real quick, that'd be super helpful for us so that we know where we want to go moving forward to and what other types of sessions that we would like. Okay. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So you're going to see everything on my screen. Just a note, when you do this with students, when you share your screen, they're going to see absolutely everything. So they're going to see everything from your desktop. If you open up your email, they're going to see those things. So just be aware of that if you use Zoom with your students. So at this point, you should be able to see my screen. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Upland Unified School District website. On this website, if you're not aware, there's family resources, and then there's something that's called teacher resources on the right-hand side. If you click teacher resources, there is an abundance of information for us. Sorry, but the one thing I want to direct you to is the distance teaching and learning support for teachers. So these are all the dates of when these Zoom sessions are happening, if you want to come to any of them. And we are looking to add how to learn about Zoom. But below here is distance learning and support for teachers. And then this has like so many different opportunities for you to learn if you wish. But the one thing I want to direct you to is this Google Classroom here. There's something that's called Google Classroom Cheat Sheet Videos. And if you click that, it's going to open up this for you. You might have seen this already, but each one of these is linked to a video that takes you directly on how to use Google Classroom for what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to work on grading student work and you want to learn more about that, if you click that link, it'll take you to a video that shows you directly how to do that. So you don't have to listen to me for an hour and try to learn it. I will also put that link into the chat as well. Sarah, should we stop for questions before I dive into our stuff?
Good morning, everybody. This is Sarah. Right now we are good with, there are no questions to start out with, and I will put that link in for that sheet that you just referenced.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so I'm assuming if you're here today that you already know how to set your classroom up and invite your students. If you do not know how to do that, you can watch the video from Tuesday, or you can just schedule another time with me. I would love to go through and help you with anything like that. This is my Google Classroom. So currently I'm in 4 different Google Classrooms, and I have these set up today so I can show you different things. The first thing I want to talk about is the class settings from today. So on the left-hand side, if you click your 3 lines in the top left next to Google Classroom, you're going to see all of the classrooms that you're in at the very bottom, settings. If you click settings, this is going to help you out with receiving like all of those emails that you have been getting every time a student posts a comment or anything like that. If you're someone that likes to receive those emails to know what's going on, that's certainly okay. If you do not want to receive any emails, you can always unclick your notifications, and then you wouldn't receive any, and then you just have to check Google Classroom on your own time. The only note, this is for all of the classes in your Google Classroom. So if you're a 6th grade teacher and you have multiple classrooms, if you take this off, you're not going to receive emails from any of your classes. The same thing goes for comments. So I know there's different administrators have been asking for you to turn your comments on or off, but this is a really great, you don't have to necessarily turn all of your comments off, but you can turn them off on just your post or the ones that mention you, and then you won't receive your email notifications every time a kid responds to a comment. Because if you have 35 kids in your class, you're going to end up with 35 emails. So you can always uncheck that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was making sure that we're still accepting late work for students, especially in this new learning phase. We want to make sure students all have the opportunity to turn in work, even if it is late. And then when we get into grading in the next couple weeks, we can talk about when we should cut the deadline off for that. Also, the invitations to co-teach classes. A lot of you have had the amazing idea that you're going to share with your grade level teams. So that's a really good one to make sure that you have on, because you want to make sure other people can invite you to co-teach their class. Okay. So that's in your settings tab. So now we're going to go into our individual classes. So you might only have 1 class set up. You might have 6. You could have 20 if you really needed to. So this is my class, and this is just like a dummy class that I set up so that we can go through it. Again, if you ever need your class code, that's going to be in the top left here, and you're always going to be able to see that. But what I want to talk about in this case is on the right-hand side, you're going to see your class details. And you can change this at any time. So if you went in the first time and you just typed in a real quick class name and you wanted to change that, you always can. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see your class code. And then you're going to see some general information about your students and your stream. So students can post and comment on your stream. If you remember, the stream is the very front page of your Google Classroom. So that's like your Facebook, like where you're scrolling through. So if you don't want kids to be able to post and comment on there, you can always turn that off. A lot of administrators have kind of asked that we do not let students comment in the beginning, just because sometimes that leads us down a rabbit hole, but it's completely up to you as the teacher. The next thing is that the classwork on the stream. So your main homepage, I would make sure that you can show your attachments and details on the stream, because even when you upload a document for a classwork, a student could still get there through the stream and through classwork. So all you're doing is really just providing another way for students to be able to see what they have to do. And then the next section below is for grading. We're not going to get to grading today because we're going to work on that in the next couple weeks. But what I did want to show you is the grade categories. So when we get into the ability to link to report cards and to Aries, this grade category really comes into play because we can link this directly to how our report card is. So it makes it really, really easy for you to transition your grades. But we'll talk about that in the future because we're not focused on the grades today. Okay, that's class settings. And Sarah, you said we have some questions.
Yes, I do. All right. So the first one was, how can I see students work on assignments?
Sure thing. We'll get to that. Great.
And if you have that one, and also, how do you find when students take a quiz on Google Forms? And I know there's a plug, we're going to have a Google Forms session next week, but how do you find the answers?
Okay.
And then also, this might be for at the end, and I will keep it on my list. How do you link work with Brain Pops Junior and Go Math?
Okay.
I think everything else looks pretty good for right now.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing underneath classwork, there's something that's called class drive folder. So as we get in and we're playing with Google Classroom, we start dumping in assignments. We want to make sure that they're all housed somewhere for us as teachers. So you think like if you teach 4th grade this year and you have 4th grade next year and you want to know all these things that you put there, this class drive folder is going to keep all of those things in your Google Drive for you as the teacher. We'll keep it here. So this is really, really important. If I open this, you're not going to see it because I don't have anything in there, but it'll list, this is the name of my Google Classroom, Shawn Google Classroom Practice 1, and all of my files will be here. So that's something really important to keep looking at. Class drive folder under classwork. Okay, so underneath classwork is create, and I think this is what some of us are starting to get into. So the first thing is that you can create an assignment, and we went over this Tuesday. An assignment is anything that you just want to put out to the kids that you want them to have do. We talked about making sure that you have the due date for the students as well for an assignment. The next one is really cool. It's quiz assignment. So if you click quiz assignment, you're going to start to see your Google form at the bottom. And Google Form is an amazing tool that we don't have to grade everything, and we can kind of create our quizzes and our tests through Google Form. But this is just for if you want the students to answer one quick question, you can always do that here. So this could be oh, and then another thing, locked mode on Chromebooks. This is really, really cool for Google Forms, because if you are submitting this as a test or a quiz for your students, if you click locked mode, that means when kids open up this Google form, they're not going to be able to pull up like additional tabs in their Chromebook to, to look for answers and search for answers. So this is really, really important to make sure that you click that for your Google Forms. So locked mode on Chromebooks. Unfortunately, if the kid is at home and they're using their parents' desktop computer, it's not going to do it, but our Chromebooks, we can lock it. So that's really, really cool. So if I click blank quiz, this is going to take me to my Google form. So this can hopefully answer the response questions too. So if I say, how are you feeling today? A lot of the primary teachers have been asking like how our kids can still do this. I mean, you're feeling good today. It's a multiple choice. And then I always want to, anytime I'm working in Google Forms, and we'll get into this next week too, you just want to make sure that it is required.
Shawn, can you demonstrate if you can put in any math symbols in a Google Form quiz?
That's a great question. I know you can. I'll have to look at it and get back. Okay, so you have this question and you're going to send it out. The students are only going to see this question. In your Google form, you're going to see questions and then you're going to see responses. If you click on responses, you're going to see that we have 0 here. As your students come in there, we're accepting responses. As your students complete that, that question, the responses are going to come in. And then the coolest thing is that you can export this to a spreadsheet and then you can use that for your grades. So it'll keep the student's name and then their responses if they said happy face or sad face. And then you can put that in an Excel sheet and then there's your grades for the future. This is a live, so if one kid does it today and 5 kids do it tomorrow, you can still see this, it'll generate it in a live format.
Shawn, can you turn it off at some point if you don't want students to go back and take it for some reason?
Yes. Let me, I know you can, I'll come back to that, I'm sorry. Okay, if I send this, you have a couple different options. So the greatest thing is, especially when we send this out for teachers, the email addresses are already collected. If you don't want that to happen, then you just unclick this box. And then you can send it in a couple different ways. You can do via mail, which we're not going to do because our elementary kids don't all have email addresses. You're going to want to do the link. And then this link is live. If you want to shorten it so that in case kids have to type it in or whatever, you just shorten it. And then there's your link, and that will take them directly to their blank quiz page on Google Forms. So you're going to copy that. And then take it back to your classroom. So this is your link for that. When kids click on this link, they're going to take them directly to this blank quiz questions. They are not going to see the responses. Only the teacher is going to see the responses. And then, so your due date, I know we mentioned this on Tuesday. We always want to make sure that we have a due date for our students. And then for topic, I know we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, but you always want to make sure you link it to something so that it creates it's a little bit easier for us. And again, this is however your brain works. If you're someone that wants to list it by subject or by date, that's completely your decision. Okay, so if we go to our stream, we're going to see how are you feeling today. And then we're going to see how many students have turned it in or have not turned it in. If we go to instructions, you're going to see your Google Forms link there. If students click this, oh, we have it on locked mode. That's okay. So kids are going to be able to pull their Google form up. Okay.
Shawn,
Question?
can I make a comment?
Sure thing.
I've been doing this already, and I really would think it's important for you to show people how to turn it off, because I literally have had kids 12 hours a day sending me check-ins, and it can get pretty overwhelming.
Okay. Okay. So, Krista, can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I think you need to, I'm trying to remember it. Go to responses where it says accepting responses, that little purple dot. If you just turn that off, then that message shows. And you're done for the day with that daily check-in. The thing is, the next day, you have to make sure that you turn that back on, because when you copy a form for a daily check-in for the next day, if you don't go back and click that on that you're accepting responses, it automatically defaults to not accepting responses.
So if we're doing our check-in in the morning and you want this to be done by noon, at noon you want to go in and say not accepting responses.
Yeah, I generally go till 5 o'clock in the evening. Some people might not want to do that, but yeah.
Have the students responded okay with that?
Oh, they love it.
Okay.
I am spending a lot of time writing back to them every day, but I think they really need that support.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
created like a 4-question daily check-in, and they love it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shawn, when you have a minute, there's a couple more questions,
Sure.
but let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
Okay. These have to do with folders. Is the Drive folder different from the topic? I have remote learning as a topic and want to keep that for students. Can the subject folder be added to that topic? So it has to do with the folders for in topics.
So underneath classwork and topics, this would be broken up however you decide as you as a team, your grade level team, or you as an individual. The class drive folder, you're going to have to make your own subtopics in your drive folder. Does that make sense? Because this is just going to house all of your information, your resources that you put up. So you would have to break your drive down into science, math, ELA, etc. Other questions, Sarah?
Yes. Does it make a new folder each year and just or do you have to keep adding to the folder? So if you have a Google Classroom this year, can you use the same materials next year?
You can, but the drive is linked directly to your Google Classroom. So if I go to my homepage for my classroom, I have 4 practice accounts right now. These will each have my own folder in Drive. So if I had Miss Ramirez 2021, it would be a different folder than Miss Ramirez 2020. Other questions?
Yes. So this has to do with an RSP teacher at elementary. She is supporting her students in different classrooms. She is a co-teacher, but she is unable to access where the students are turning in their classroom, their work. How would a co-teacher ask, or have you worked in that co-teacher model? I think you've been a co-teacher in some classrooms.
So one thing I shared on Tuesday too, an RSP teacher, she actually created 20 different Google Classrooms for each one of her students in order to make sure that she was meeting her minutes. I thought that was a really great idea because you can still push out the same assignments to 20 different classes if you need to. That way, no one could see the students' work because she was nervous about the other students seeing the work with her individual students. That was a really great way. And then underneath grades, so let me go to a classroom that has grades. Underneath grades, if you are the teacher or co-teacher, you should be able to see this. So I'm wondering if you're able to see underneath grades, if you're the co-teacher. I'm the quote unquote co-teacher in this classroom and I can see it.
Shawn, so how would you access some work so the co-teacher could actually see what the student turned in?
So anytime under green, underneath turned in, you can click view submission. So see, this was, this kid said yes, that they're happy or whatever today. So we can see that. So if they turned in like a Google document, like if you're in 4th or 5th or 6th grade and you're having them submit documents, you're going to see that here. Other questions?
Shawn, this is Emily. I also think if you click on people up at the top, and then you just click on the student name that you see, I think if you just click on a student name of the student, it might show you everything that they've turned in.
Yeah.
So that's another way to easily access it and just go straight to the student that you want to look at.
Thank you for sharing that, Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Yes, we do have. Do you have to upload items into the class drive folder, or does it automatically upload?
It should automatically upload, but if you're someone that wants to keep everything for next year and you're like working a week out, I would put things directly into the folder in your drive so that you know that it's there and then you're organized for next year. It's the same thing as like keeping your plan book from the year before with all of your stuff in it. So however you would organize your plan book, that's how I would suggest to organize that drive piece.
Thank you, Shawn. That's all the questions for now. And everybody just keep typing them in.
Awesome. Okay, next one. So underneath classwork, we're underneath create. The one thing I wanted to talk about was the question and then the difference between material. So if you go to question, this is, you could type in, you could have the students do a short answer or a multiple choice. If you click add, you could always add resources. So if you wanted to do like a video, mindset video, and you wanted to link it here, you could always link that video. If it was a YouTube video, you could link it directly. But these would be resources that would be linked directly under the question that you're asking the students to answer. The other thing is, if you're a teacher and you have multiple classes and you want this same thing to be sent to all of your classes, you go for 4 and then you could click all of the classes that you want it, or if only a few of them that you want to send it to, and then each class would receive this. The same thing goes for students. So if you are an RSP teacher and you are a co-teacher and you only have certain students in the class, this classroom does not have an example of students in there, but here would populate your list of students and you could go through and click which ones you want to send this actual assignment to. Again, with the due date, you always want to make sure that you have that. And then here, topic, however your brain wants to work and you want to organize, you could go ahead and click that topic. And then click ask, and then that question will be submitted. Also under create is material. So material is anything that you want students to have access to, like, I always give the example of like a multiplication chart for third grade. Like, you always want students to have that, but they don't have to turn anything in. They don't have to submit anything. It's literally just there as a resource for them. So again, if you are only wanting to send that to certain students according to their IEP or whatever, that they could use it on tests, you could always send that here and click for certain students. Okay, also underneath question, I would love to show this too. You can always schedule your question. So like Krista was kind of talking about, like if you wanted it to always go in the morning at 8 o'clock, you could always do that as well. You could always have it be a certain time or whatever it is. And all you have to do, let me type it for you. All you have to do is click schedule, and then you can pick when and where you want this to be released at. So it sounds like Krista's sending a few different questions every morning. If you're someone that doesn't like to wake up at 7:30, but you want it to be there at 7:30, you can click it and schedule it, and then that's when it will populate into the student's Google Classroom. We'll pause for questions there, and then I would love to show something outside of Google Classroom.
Okay. The first one is there an easy way to share students' work within the classroom?
An easy way to show students' work.
Share students' work. So if you were going to share work.
Like to highlight it to other kids in the class?
I believe so.
I don't know that answer. I can open it up. Does anyone else know that answer?
Or if you can also have them share in a Google Doc where you would, have them collaborate on a Google Doc. You can do it that way.
Maybe the person who asked it could explain what they mean, because it doesn't make sense.
It's Renee. Renee asked this.
Okay.
It's Renee. It's just, I have some parents that uploaded pictures, and I was just wanting to share with the other students. And if I can use a Google Doc, maybe that would be the better route.
You could even, Renee, you could even create like a Google Slides.
Okay, that's perfect, because that's what I was thinking. So I would have to put it on Google Slides in order to share with the class, correct?
Yeah, like say you have 10 pictures you want to show, put them on
Yeah.
Slides, and then you could post that on your stream.
Okay.
That'd be really nice, actually.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, but I didn't know how to go about it.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
All right.
Sarah?
Yes. This person asked, sometimes when I add an assignment and make a copy for each student, some still cannot access. What's wrong?
That's a great question. I'm wondering if are they working on, is it a Google Doc? Is it something that is in Google?
The person who asked, it was, the initials are RG.
Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Yeah, it's always a Google Doc,
Okay.
and I know how to do the sharing. You have to do the sharing before you first assign it, and after you've assigned it, then you can't anymore. But on my side, I can see that they have a copy, but then either they're messaging me saying, I don't see a copy, and I'm like, I see it. It's right there on your page. Or I see the copy, Ms. O, but I can't type on it, even though on my side it says they have a copy that they can access. Everyone else is doing fine, but what's the problem?
The only issue I would see is if it's not in Google and if it's like a Microsoft Word and they don't have Word.
No, it's all Google stuff.
This is Emily. We ran into trouble with a teacher yesterday, and I went ahead and I, of course, Googled it to see what's going on. And they said at the Google Help, sometimes it just happens that way. It's like a bug in the coding or something. And so we tried just to send it out under a different assignment to that kid.
Okay.
That's where we got, because like a couple teachers at my site are running into that trouble, and it's like sporadic and it's random kids and it doesn't happen all the time.
All right, so it's basically just send them a different copy.
That's what we tried yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
And maybe it's, you just resend it out. It could just be a bad link. I don't know. Another one, this is kind of related. In the past, I linked a YouTube video, but just as a link. Students weren't able to view video. If I link as a YouTube video, does this guarantee they can watch it?
No, it's depending on the either the controls from the district, or from sometimes parent controls can make it not go to them as well. A lot of times when you have a YouTube video, it'll ask for is this okay for Upland Unified School District, and you have to hit yes. It's like that button will pop up. It'll be like underneath the YouTube video. Like even if you're just watching it as a teacher in your classroom,
Shawn,
that might work.
this is Krista again.
Hi, Krista.
Our VP sent us a link that we have to paste our YouTube video choices in first to ensure that it's safe, and then post it with like the safe. I don't know. You basically, I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about, but it's basically a link where you paste your YouTube video. The link goes in as safe, and then once it's verified as safe, you can post it in Google Classroom.
Krista, if you don't mind, would you be able to post that in the chat? If not, you can send it to my email, then I could send it out to people too. That sounds like an amazing resource.
Yes, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing. It's already in the chat. Here is another one. If you assign something to a certain student, are they the only ones that can see it?
Yes.
Okay, that's all the questions for now. I am researching about the math symbols and I will get back to you on that.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing is, I know, I just wanted to share this because I know a lot of our students were sent home with not a lot of materials if they didn't come back to school to pick them up or what have you. But I know everyone knows, everyone calls it something different, News ELA or News Ella. Currently it's 100% free. If you sign in, so I just signed in with my Google account for the district, and everything is free. And then the coolest thing about this website is it directs everything that you do directly to your Google Classroom. And then you can change it by Lexile level. So if you have different groups of kids in your class, and if you want to send, we'll do Lexile level 600. If you click share, the first thing that's going to pop up is Google Classroom. It's going to ask you which class you want to share it to. I'm going to do Miss Ramirez because she has students. And then we're going to create an assignment with this. I'm going to hit go. Okay, so then if you click underneath students, I'm not going to do all students because I only have 5 of my students that are a little bit lower and I want them to have a lower Lexile level or whatever. And I click those 4 kids or whatever. I'm going to make sure I set my due date. And then I'm going to hit assign. If I go back to my article and I change the Lexile level, I hit share, same thing, Google Classroom. Ms. Ramirez. And then these are some of my higher kids or whatever. And assign. I just think this is a really great opportunity because students don't see who was assigned what. They see that they all got this same article, but it's different Lexall levels for our different levels. Just a really cool feature, and it is 100% free right now if you want to check that out. Easily compatible with Google Classroom too. Okay, questions on that?
Yes, I have. Sorry, I was double tasking. It says, each day I post today's assignments for my second graders. Is there a way to achieve or move this week's work so that there isn't so much posted for next week?
So on your stream, there's a feature that, like, say on Monday, no one was coding and you wanted to move that to the top, you can move it to the top, or you can delete from your stream as well. So if this is something super old and you're running out and you don't want to have all these things on your stream, no big deal, you can always delete it as well. I would encourage you to leave everything on your stream. That way nothing is lost. And just kind of think of it as your Facebook scroll. Like, eventually kids are going to get to the point where they saw that last week and they're not going to keep scrolling. But I really do like the move to the top feature, like if you want to help remind kids that something is due. Great question. Other questions?
Yes. How can I get this to read Newsela or News ELA articles to them?
Say it again.
How can I get the Newsela articles to be read to them?
I know that is a feature. I don't know that off the top of my head. Does anyone know that answer?
I think that's part of the Google Suite, but we can certainly find out that you can turn it on. I can add that unless somebody knows already. Okay, the next one is, how can we assign Go math lessons to Google Classroom?
So a couple different ways that I've seen some people have some real success. If you have, because different kids are at different places, we have to make sure they have the app on Clever. Almost all should, but a lot of us don't know how to get, the kids don't know how to go to that app. So the first thing is to make sure that they understand that. If you have like the workbook or something at home and you want to scan it to your Google Classroom, you can do that too. If you have an iPhone, underneath the Notes app, you can basically scan anything and upload it directly to your Google Classroom too. So another really good resource is the Notes app on your iPhone. I do not have access to a math classroom right now, so I can't show you that in person. Does anyone want to speak to that?
You can access mine if you want to.
Robin,
Or
do you know?
maybe we are allowed or no? I don't know. That was my question because I know how to, like, I don't know, have kids go on it, but I don't know how to assign it to Google Classroom, so they like maybe click a link, make it easier for those kids that get lost in the steps on how to go to their Clever and then click on that app and then do this or that. I thought maybe there was like a streamlined version where they can just click on something on Google Classroom.
Does anyone have like a resource that they give to their kids on like a step-by-step, so we wouldn't have to recreate it? Or Robin, I can always help you recreate too.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes. If you delete an assignment, will it delete the student's work and grade?
If I'm almost positive, yes. I don't know that for a fact, but it sounds to me if you delete it, it would. Other questions?
Oh, yes, there is. Back to Newsela, Shawn, or News ELA. What does the present feature do? Does it perhaps read to the students?
I think it just is like showing like it removes everything else from your web page. Like presenting in Google Slides, I think. Yeah. See how that disappeared?
All right. Another question referring back to a special education teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Would like clarification. If I assign an assignment to my RSP students in Google Classroom and I am the co-teacher, do all of the students in those Google Classrooms see that the assignments were assigned and to whom it was assigned?
So let's look here. This is what we just did, read and respond. And these were the 4 students. This is what you're gonna see. So those 4 students in your small group are gonna see that there's 4 students in their small group, but the other 28 kids in the class are not gonna see that. So that's why I said if you have an like if you have to meet certain minutes or requirements with kids, it might be a really good idea to have that one-on-one Google Classroom with a kid. That way you know for sure you're not highlighting anything that you shouldn't be highlighting with that student with everybody else in the class. But anyone within their group that you assigned can see.
Okay, there was a comment about the Go Math people in the kindergarten issue with half of our classes.
Yes.
I followed up with that, and they are working on it both with Aries and with Go Math. So I had an extensive conversation, and hopefully they will be able to figure that out as quickly as possible.
Okay.
All right, and then there was another comment so everyone can hear that on ReadWorks, the article gives an option to audio, so it will read to students.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
We're good for now, Shawn.
Thank you.
And ReadWorks is free right now too, and it works with Google Classroom, importing it as an assignment very easily.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly was people. So as I think Emily mentioned earlier, if you click on a certain student, it's going to give you a summary. So when we talk about like kids not completing work, when we get into the point of sending like any type of progress report home or anything like that, we can always bring up the individual report, and you can see everything that they have turned in, things they're missing, anything that was done late, their grades, so 100 out of 100. And then you have your filters on the left-hand side. So if you want to just look at missing work, you can click that, and then it's going to show everything that student has not completed yet. So that's underneath people, and then you're going to have all your students there. So you can look at individual students. Also, if, for example, if someone moves or leaves your classroom, you can always click them and remove. Also, we hope this doesn't happen, but if a student is unable to participate online because they're not following guidelines, you can always mute them as well so that they can't talk or respond to other students. That way you're not always taking it away from the whole class. If you're in upper grades and you have email, you can always email them directly as well. And then,
Are the teachers able to print this report or make a document that can be shared with parents?
So we had the question on Tuesday as well with inviting guardians. At this point, we're saying that we're only supposed to invite them if they're like really, really like hesitant and they say like we want to have access, then we can invite them. I would kind of lay off that as long as you can. The individual reports, I know they can be emailed, so you can always, if you click up email student or guardian, then you could always have them print this off, but of course we're at school. So I don't know, does anyone know that answer? If we can download it ourselves? I don't know.
Um,
I can look into it.
okay. Can I just share what I found out about math symbols?
Sure.
I did put in the chat a link about how to add equations and equation editor in a Google Doc. What I found is that if you put your equations in a Google Doc to copy and paste over. There are other applications you can use, but it looks like, and I tried it and it does work. So that would help, hopefully.
Thank you. And the last thing I wanted to highlight today was, I know I showed you this a little bit earlier, was the grades feature. And thinking of this as kind of your way of checking to make sure everyone is on task and doing what we need to be doing. If you see here that you're starting to see certain trends or kids are turning something in, then we want to go back and look, were we explicit in our instructions? Where do they know how to turn something in, or do we need to provide a different resource or so forth? But I just thought this was a really great layout of where our kids are, and you can see everything that you've assigned to them throughout your time so far. And the last thing to highlight, when you're done grading and giving the kids any feedback that you wanted to, you can return that to students like one at a time. So like as you finish with Arturo, if you want to send his back to him, you can do that. But there's the feature here, and you can just click return all, and then it will send all the work back from this assignment at one time. So you don't have to click it 35 times.
Shawn, there's a question from Krista. And she says, my grades page has every category blurred out, question mark.
Every category blurred out.
Yeah, I can't see any kind of grades. It's like they're just blurred out across. So I don't know if I don't have something open or.
Up across the top, Krista?
No, actually down all the categories. So any square where there would be a grade, everything's blurred out.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I can look into it too. I don't know that answer.
Okay.
Also, Darla asks, is there a way to lock the assignment so that students can't go back and modify or change their work after you've graded it?
So underneath the settings, you can do that for all of your so the resubmissions of student work, you can always click that off. So if you send it to a kid and they send it back to you, it's not going to be accepted. Other questions?
Well, just to clarify, can they still make changes on it though?
Not if you take that off of everyone. So
And when you, sorry, when you take it off, does it take it off of just a certain assignment, or does it take it off of everything?
if you go to settings and change it, it's going to take it off of everything. So they're not going to be able to resubmit.
Okay.
But if you send a document back to them, they can resubmit it up until the deadline of the assignment, and then it would be flagged as late.
Right,
And
okay.
that's the only way for you to kind of tell. Other questions?
I'm asking for more questions. I did put the link to our plus deltas in the feed. Shawn, there was a question earlier. Could you refresh where teachers can find the teacher resource website?
Yep.
And
So-
where they can find if they wanted to access the presentations from our other Zoom PLs, professional learning.
Thank you. So the Upland Unified School District website, there's two things to highlight here. On the right side, there's family resources. So this would actually be an amazing link to put into your Google Classrooms so that your families could see it too. And then there's a teacher resource. And I have to admit it's a tad overwhelming, but there's amazing, amazing stuff on here. And then it tells you kind of like who, so this is when professional learning is happening and available, but below it is the list of all these amazing things. So underneath Google Classroom, it's going to tell you like who to go to if you have questions. Like Google Classroom, if you want like an advanced session and you have more questions, these 3 people would be great to contact because they're experts in that. If you click all the way at the bottom and you need something for technology, you're going to be able to submit that form here too. And then the tech team, we're going to get that. And hopefully they'll be able to answer your questions. So like, even if you were having trouble with grading on Google Classroom, you could submit that and see if they could help us out as well. There's also a tab for elementary and secondary too.
Shawn, do you want to highlight the e-puzzle link? If you would, there was a new form put up yesterday by the tech leads. If you go to the elementary and go to Ed Puzzle, I'm sorry, the Ed Puzzle. This was put up yesterday. If you scroll down a little bit. That is not what she did. Let's go to secondary, if you don't mind. It was a great resource they just put up yesterday. Here it is. If you, this one has a variety of playlists on how to create Ed puzzles. So that's new if you would like to access it.
Any other questions?
Yes, there's the last question about where can I rewatch the video? Well, we will be putting up this video right here on the web page. I don't know if you want to scroll down just a bit on your screen, Shawn, you will see the link right there where it says click here to record recorded Zoom sessions. That is where you will find this once we put it up. It takes us a little bit of time, but it should be up by this afternoon.
Anything else? Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate everyone chiming in. I think we're so much better when we all work together. And I just appreciate all the hard work, and there's nothing but positive feedback out there in the community about all of the amazing stuff that we're doing. So I just hope you all continue to do amazing things, and don't hesitate to reach out individually if you need anything from me, and I'll do my best to support.
And thank you very much for participating and giving us feedback through the plus deltas. I put that in the feed. Any of your insight would be helpful as we move forward.